Welcome to today's Q&A. I'm Dr. Janine. Great to have you here today. And if you do have questions, make sure you put them in the comment section. I'm here to answer your questions. And based on yesterday's show, so yesterday, of course, if you missed the Dr. Janine show, we talked about some compromising ingredients that you can find in your vitamins, which are so common. We've talked about magnesium stearate in the past, but yesterday we talked about vegetable stearic acid. And this is something, or vegetable-based magnesium stearate. And I get a lot of questions on this. There's a lot of misconceptions that because it is from vegetables that it's healthier, it's safer. The truth is it's not. So we did talk about that. We also talked about tips for trigeminal neuralgia, as well as tips for low bone density and osteopenia. And we went through those lists. So if you missed it, so make sure that you're putting your comments in the comment section, and we'll go through and you can screenshot some of those lists that we went through yesterday, as well as Hashimoto's and thyroiditis. Of course, that's something that we talked about, and some of the best foods for your thyroid and some of the not so good foods for your thyroid. We also talked about symptoms of vitamin K2 deficiency, which are very, very common. You wouldn't necessarily put those symptoms together with being low in vitamin K2, but it is an essential vitamin that we all need. A lot of us are deficient in it, and so we talked about that as well. Hello, D.I.K. Lem in Los Angeles. Great to have you here. Sabina as well. Dan Moscato, hello. Thank you for tuning in today. And Reba Romara, hello, nice to have you here. Toronto, I'm guessing? I don't know. Great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Vinci here as well from Lubeck. Thank you for tuning in. Skinny Louise, tips for headaches. Yes, that is something that I cover a lot in my content. Magnesium deficiency is one of the first things that I think about. Dehydration. EMF exposure, which is one of the big topics in my book. So electromagnetic fields, and I'm not talking about the natural ones, that can be a cause for headaches as well. And I give you a lot of tips in my latest book as to how to sort of decrease your risk, mitigate your risks against those EMFs, which is so important. Aga, hello in Miami. And you missed the live with Hashimoto's. Okay, Sabina, I'm going to make sure that we go through some of what we talked about yesterday for thyroid health. So we will review that. And Serotonin, you are the number 13 fan in the fan club. Well, thank you for joining in today. It's great to have you here. And thank you for the heart. Thank you so much for the, and these things and the heart signal. Thank you so much for all of your donations, Serotonin. Love that handle name as well. Very healthy. All right, good. Boy of Galaxy, thank you. Talking about digestion, yes, we can focus in on that. And low B levels, so Velveteen Rabbit, 1922, and vitamin B not working. It depends on the type of, can you tell us which type of vitamin B you're taking? Is it a B complex? Is it a whole food complex for your Bs? This is really, really important. And who else do I have here? Nora, hello. Nice to have you here. Thank you for tuning in, as well as Puri Belka. Can magnesium be combined with other ingredients? Malate, for example. My favorite type of magnesium is a magnesium bisglycinate. And maybe if I can have my board, and I'm going to write that out for you. Magnesium bisglycinate. Aga says that you take magnesium glycinate, which is a little bit different with chronic arthritis, but you exercise, you doing yoga and Pilates, 2 of each weekly. Amazing. Collagen really does help, and always making sure, and I'm going to write some of these things out for you. Hydrolyzed bovine collagen is what I've seen has the best research behind it. That's the type that I take. Had it in my coffee this morning. Absolutely amazing. And I really do find that for, at my age, I would think that I would have a lot of sore and achy joints and things. I do not, and I believe it's because of the collagen that I take. And of course I take it, yes, it helps with the beauty aspects, but for bone density it's important, especially for women. Some research has shown that collagen, taking the right type, is going to be really helpful for bone density, but also for your ligaments, your tendons, for that elastic and elasticity in your fibers, which is so important for preventing falls and of course for strength in the joints. And it helps to actually rebuild the cartilage, which is important as well. So whether that's in the spine or in your bigger joints like your knees, your hips, your ankles. All right, magnesium first. Let me just write it out. So magnesium bisglycinate is my favorite type. to take, all right? And glycine, so you see glycinate is in here. It has 2 of those glycines. There is just glycinate, so magnesium glycinate. Okay, I prefer the bisglycinate. So 2 glycines. Glycine is important because what happens if you eat a modern world sort of diet with things that have been sprayed with glyphosate, that's going to trap your glycine. So we need a little bit more glycine, and glycine really does help with your glutathione levels. It works like a neurotransmitter. So a lot of us have a glycine deficiency as well. So getting enough glycine, that's why I like the bisglycinate with 2. That's my favorite type of magnesium to take. And magnesium, there is, yes, malate and amino acid chelates and citrate. Citrate, a lot of people use, and I think they falsely use it for constipation to get things moving. Maybe that's not, the best way to address chronic constipation. There could be other things happening, and that's why you're constipated, things that I talk about in my book. All right. In terms of, really quickly, on the collagen, you want to find so for collagen, my favorite type to take is a bovine, so from cows, hydrolyzed. Did I get that right there? Bovine hydrolyzed collagen, which means that it's sort of pre-digested for you, because for some people collagen can cause some tummy upset and bloating and things. So this is my favorite type, and ideally from grass-fed. This is really important, grass-fed cows. Because if it's not grass-fed, then it can be high in deuterium. And deuterium is something that I do talk about in my latest book, in the Lost Medicine, which is not something, deuterium is a regulator, and we don't want to have too much deuterium. It's just bad for our cells, to make it very simple. And it is a time regulator in our cells and how well our cells work. Okay, Hashimoto's. I want to go. A lot of people are asking about the Hashimoto's, so let's go through that. So best Skinny Louie's, best magnesium for headaches, the magnesium bisglycinate that I had up there earlier. Fantastic, your headaches will disappear. It is amazing. Okay, my team behind the scene is also sharing some information. Thank you so much. Raina, thank you for sharing today's live. Great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. And Simone L, thank you for sharing today's live as well. Hey, if everybody can hit that share button, I appreciate it, like Raina and Simone did. That would be amazing. Thank you for all the hearts coming in as well. And it's so great to have you all here. Okay, KWKWZW, 1966, extremely high insulin. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. You have to fix your leptin resistance, and something called calcitonin. So, and this ties into your thyroid as well. So let's go to thyroid first, then remind me, everyone, to come back to the calcitonin, leptin, insulin story, all right? Which may be things that you haven't really heard before. All right, so for Hashimoto's, let's talk about some of the foods that we do not want to be eating if you have autoimmune disorders in general, but especially with Hashimoto's. Here we see, okay, so refined oils, number 6 on the list. Of course, that refining process is something that is going to add a lot of chemicals into your body. Even though the end product is an oil, it's been derived initially from a plant usually, and with the vegetable oils, and it goes through so much processing and so much chemical additives and extractions that have happened that the end product, yes, it looks like a clear, crisp oil, yet it's been adulterated with all of these chemicals in the processing. So that's really important. So those refined oils, not a good thing. Caffeine, also not great for Hashimoto's. It can falsely, give you that sense of energy, but at the same time, it dehydrates your system. So too much caffeine, not a good thing for Hashimoto's. As well as refined sugars, same kind of story. The more something is refined, the less minerals it's going to have. And of course, we need essential minerals to run our thyroid. So that becomes important, and of course it's going to spike the glycemic index, not great for the thyroid as well, and for your insulin. Packaged foods in general, a lot of chemicals that can now attribute to more leaky gut. We know that that connection with autoimmunity and leaky gut is definitely there, as well as your dairy products, not always the best. So casein can make autoimmune conditions much worse. Now, of course, if you can find a good grass-fed Raw milk, I mean, that's banned in some countries, depends where you live. If you've got a cow, that's probably the best. But, you know, and there's different dairy alternatives as well. But some of the other ones, the plant-based ones, you got to be careful with as well because they're usually fortified with the synthetic vitamins. I wonder if our viewer came back with the type of B that they're taking. So my team has to let me know if that comes back because I'm guessing it's not a whole food vitamin B. With low Bs. All right. And of course, gluten, unfortunately, there is definitely a correlation with Hashimoto's and gluten sensitivity. So that is something, again, probably to be avoiding until at least you fix what's going on with the gut, your leaky gut, your healthy microbiome. You got to get back to that, as well as, of course, doing what I recommend, which is Mother Nature's prescription and getting out into nature to reconnect your clock mechanisms. Your thyroid has a clock mechanism which has to be in tune with the other clocks in your body, your other organs in your brain, the master clock. And usually there's a disconnect that's happening because you're under artificial light. You have the lights on after dark. You don't go outside enough. So there's all these things. You don't get up with the sun. There's all these things that can discoordinate your clocks. And that's why you've got the problem to begin with, especially with your leptin signaling. All right, so really quickly with the high insulin question, I do want to address this really quickly. Thank you, Queen Sandy Beach. Hello. Yes, we are just outside of Toronto, Canada. Great to have you here, but we're all over the world, of course, online when we have our lives. Tara, hello. You've been out in the sun a lot during the day, getting some dark spots on your face, but you want the vitamin D, so not using sunscreen. Usually dark spots go away during winter. Anything to worry about? Not to worry about. For the most part, don't worry about what's happening there. And yeah, at the very least, if you wanted to use sunscreen on your face, you maybe could wear a hat so that you're minimizing what you're seeing in terms of the pigmentation, which is melanin. It's coming to the surface for a reason. It's not the worst thing, and then it will fade. But then, of course, get as much exposure on your other parts of your body where we don't worry so much about if we're seeing the freckles and everything, on other parts. All right, so can we go to the calcitonin really quickly? So the insulin question, then I'm going to show you some of the foods. We'll just review some of the foods that are best for Hashimoto's for your thyroid. Tammy Lynn with Hashimoto's for a while. And okay, so yeah, a question about multivitamins. Always getting your nutrients from whole food sources is what I do recommend as sort of my overarching look at how we address supplementation. So that becomes really important without the fillers and flow agents, which is something that we did talk about yesterday, to making sure that you're avoiding, especially things like magnesium stearate and vegetable stearic acid. That it was in yesterday's show. So if you missed yesterday's show, then you can definitely watch it on on wherever you watch, longer form videos. Okay, really quickly. So leptin is going to block your osteocalcin. Now, osteocalcin comes out of the bones, but you can see here that it regulates your insulin. All right, so this is a good thing, but there's something called insulin resistance. So when we have leptin resistance, it does block the osteocalcin, and now that is going to suppress the proper insulin synthesis, and then the insulin receptor doesn't always work properly. We've got insulin resistance, we've got high insulin, and this is often what's happening for people when they've gone to the doctor, and the doctor says, okay, your insulin's high, your blood glucose is high, what is happening here, this is why we have to address actually the root cause, and asking your doctor what the root cause as to why you're not feeling well is something that you should do. A lot of doctors will not be able to answer that question. So this is where you have to advocate for yourself, and this is why you're watching a show like this, because you're educating yourself and learning at the fundamentals as to why we're not well, and this is one of them. So we know with leptin resistance, if you don't know what about leptin resistance, I have a whole section in my book. You can definitely do a lot of research on your own online. But leptin is something it's a hormone secreted by our fat cells. And when we are not out under natural light exposure, we have a lot of EMFs around us, we have artificial lights, it messes up our leptin signaling. And especially if we're not building our melanin and actually getting natural sun, which a lot of us don't, then this is going to screw up everything that's happening with all these clock mechanisms, our circadian biology. So to make things really simple, what that leptin resistance does is it's going to block that osteocalcin, and then we'll have all these effects. This is why people gain weight with leptin resistance. That's why the insulin secretion gets all messed up, and we get the insulin resistance, as well as the muscle sensitivity to insulin is going to decrease. So you're going to see everything the opposite. Neurotransmitter production decreases in the brain, testosterone decreases. So it's a problem. So that's why we have to address that leptin problem, as well as, of course, the insulin problem. All right, I hope that helps for that insulin question. As well as, thank you, Raina. Thank you. I see some nice commenting happening. So thank you to everybody who's watching today. Please make sure if you're new here that you hit that subscribe button, that you are following. I'm Dr. Janine. We talk all natural things here at the Dr. Janine Show. And today is our Q&A. So your opportunity to ask me questions based on, what we saw yesterday in the show. And XA is asking, you're on a certain drug. Can you take K2? I mean, always check with your doctor, but vitamin K2 deficiency is very common. And it's something that you definitely, any specific questions for any types of medications that you are taking, you always have to consult with your practitioner. But K2, I would say, is probably okay, but you have to check with your doctor, of course. Okay, so let's go through some of the symptoms of vitamin K2 deficiency. We'll just do them over here, and I can show you really quickly, which are so common. So we know that vitamin K2 helps to direct that calcium to get into our bones and into our teeth. We don't want calcium going to the wrong places, like into our kidneys, into our arteries, and causing blockages. But some of the symptoms of being low in that vitamin K2, which are so common, are dark under eye circles, something that we talked about a couple weeks ago in the Dr. Janine Show as well. That's one of the symptoms, as well as cavities and issues with dental health can be related to low vitamin K2, as well as when we're talking about insulin and high blood glucose levels. So this is part of that story as well, with making sure that for insulin resistance and high insulin, that we are actually optimizing our vitamin K2 levels, joint pain, and low bone density, of course, memory loss. So this does affect our ability to maintain our good memory and brain power. Chest pains, blocked arteries, palpitations can be related to low vitamin K2, weight gain even, and could be easy bruising. And we think more of vitamin K1 in terms of easy bruising. It helps with blood clotting in the right way. That's why babies are given a vitamin K injection at birth most times, depending on where you live. But that's very common because typically, it's hard to get enough of that vitamin K from mom at birth. So I hope that helps. And is it okay to be on a Hashimoto's diet while having thyroid? VK is asking, while having thyroid what? Yes, so Hashimoto's, definitely eating the foods that are good for your thyroid. Let's go through the list of my 10 best foods if you missed yesterday's show for Hashimoto's, but this would apply to really anyone who is looking to have a healthier diet, and especially if you have any type of autoimmunity issue, then these foods would be the healthiest. So we started at number 10, fermented foods. So this would be, supporting your gut microbiome. So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, amazing for anything that's fermented, really easy to make yourself as well. So we've actually made it on the show here before, making your own sauerkraut. It just requires sauerkraut. So just cabbage, I should say, and you chop that up and some salt and you put it in a jar and that's it. So really easy to make your own sauerkraut and very inexpensive as well. And then of course those natural bacteria will form over time. And it's amazing. All right, number 9, coconut oil or MCT oil. And this is going to be really protective for that gut healing ability. And coconut oil has antiviral properties as well. So it's just a really healthy oil to be consuming. Number 8 on the list was avocados. Again, those healthy fats, great for balancing hormones, natural anti-inflammatory. And we want to think about these foods in season as well. So if they grow where you're living, then it's okay to eat them, and if they're in season. If they're not, then maybe not so much, because our metabolism isn't going to support, again, the seasons and those clock mechanisms that I talked about earlier. Not ideal if it's not matching, all right, the time and the place for when some of these foods are growing. Sweet potatoes, again, amazing for your beta carotene, which of course converts to your active vitamin A, and it helps to support your blood sugar because it's a slower burning carb, so it's not going to spike your blood glucose like other root vegetables. Sweet potatoes are amazing. Brazil nuts also great because they have selenium, so 1 to 3 Brazil nuts per day, depending on the size of them, will give you the daily selenium that you need, and that is really important for your thyroid hormone conversion, and it helps to regulate your immune system as well. All right, for Hashimoto's also, bone broth, amazing for healing that leaky gut. Number 4, pasture-raised eggs. Again, high quality eggs are going to be fantastic for the protein, that DHA as well, which is important for the electrical signaling in your body, for all your nervous function. Eggs are just a great form of protein, and just making sure that they're high quality eggs is going to be important. Cruciferous veggies, as we know, great. Now, for anybody who has been recommended not to have the cruciferous vegetables, all you have to do is cook them slightly, and then it eliminates that goitrogenic effect of robbing you of your iodine. There's a lot of sort of misinformation out there, and I read a report about endocrinologists, and none of them agreed on the fact that, yeah, we should be avoiding, you know, your Brussels sprouts, your cabbage, your broccoli for all your thyroid patients. It just is not agreed upon. So where this was sort of elucidated or, you know, where it came in vogue to tell patients with thyroid, low thyroid, to avoid the goitrogenic foods, I don't know. But you just have to steam them or cook them slightly, and then that effect disappears. All right, where were we? Number 2, leafy greens, of course, loaded with the nutrients that we need for that healthy thyroid, and of course, great for the liver. So anything that is, especially a bitter green, is great for your liver health. Your liver loves that, and we need to have good liver health for hormonal conversion, and all the aspects of having a healthy liver, of course, goes far beyond just, you know, your thyroid health, of course, for autoimmunity in general, and for your immune system as well. And number 1, of course, is wild caught fish. So whatever that means to you, the smaller ones are better, sardines, mackerel, because they don't have, you know, the lifespan of accumulating and bioaccumulating all of the mercury and all the other toxins from their environment. However, this is something that is a great list, again, for any type of autoimmune condition. So I hope that helps you. Yeah, and thank you for tuning in today. Zygabo, great question. What is my opinion on having a teaspoon of baking soda with fresh lemon juice in the morning? I know a lot of people love to do this. I never got on the bandwagon personally of doing the baking soda. I believe that the body, and what the research shows is that the body finds pH balance very quickly on its own, and to think, or alkaline water is another great example of this, to think that drinking alkaline water or doing, you know, very alkaline things that you're eating all the time, your body's going to buffer that and compensate with making things more acidic. So is it helpful for some people? I think absolutely. If you are feeling nauseous, yes, baking soda is great. If you've got acid reflux as a quick fix, yeah, maybe great. But to do it all the time, just as something that you're wanting to make your system more alkaline so that you know, are healthier, I'm not sure that there's validity in that. But hey, everybody's different, and here's what, you know, the way that your body works is going to be, you know, in tune with you personally, everybody who's watching. So it's great to get all the information, and that's why I share a lot of information, but at the same time, you've got to figure it out for you and see what works for you and what makes you feel better and live your best life and your healthiest life. So yeah, I personally haven't done it for myself. However, that's not to say that it's not great for a lot of people out there, if that makes sense. All right. Okay. Pianist 3, low mercury tuna is good too. Yes, if you can find a good quality tuna, definitely lower fat and great high protein source, and has some omegas as well. It's just got to be a good quality tuna. That's the only caveat with tuna, because it is a larger fish, and it can accumulate, as we know, more mercury. Okay. Is it okay to eat cabbage if you have thyroid? Yes. VK, yes, we just talked about that. So cruciferous veggies, yes, you can. Just steam them a little bit if you're worried about the goitrogenic effect of trapping some of that iodine. Another question came in, do most strong leafy greens have calcium? Yes, they do. But do they have enough calcium to make sure that you're getting enough in your daily diet? This is the question. Depends where they were grown, what the soil is like. So I would say less and less calcium and other minerals in, of course, our fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, compared to even 50 or 100 years ago. And depending on where you live, of course, there's a big deficiency now, and this is why people are finding that they need to supplement. Now, supplementing with calcium is something that, if you will supplement, and if you look at supplementing, my preferred go-to is a coral calcium, a whole food coral calcium, which has other trace minerals that are naturally occurring in a fossilized coral. So you're not robbing the oceans of the coral. It's already fossilized, but that's important because those other trace minerals help with the absorption of the actual calcium, which is important. Okay. D and K together. Seabreeze Sherry, great question. I had that question came in yesterday as well. Why do so many supplements have vitamin D3 and K2 together in the same supplement and not feeling great when you take them together? Very common. I do not recommend that you take vitamin D and K2 at the same time. Okay, we want to take them separately. Maybe I'll go back to my chalkboard for the good old-fashioned chalkboard. In our modern world now, it's very different. All right, so D3 is, oops, no, if I spell these things right. Okay, D3, K2. We do not want to take them at the same time. I actually prefer your D3 plus your magnesium in the morning. Okay, so MM, this is how we remember this. Magnesium in the morning. Why is that? Okay, magnesium helps with our metabolism. If you're taking a bisglycinate, like what we were talking about earlier, if you're just tuning in, then welcome on in. I'm Dr. Janine. This is our Q&A today. All right, so MM, magnesium in the morning, magnesium bisglycinate bound to 2 glycines so that you get extra glycine, which we want. That form of magnesium in the bisglycinate helps with your metabolism of your carbs, your fats, your proteins, helps with your stress, helps with the regular beating of your heart, helps with anxiety, helps with, muscle contractions throughout the day, helps to protect against your modern world with EMFs, your screen time, your phone, your Wi-Fi, and all that stuff that we have around us. So that's why I prefer it in the morning, and it also gives you energy and helps you just to deal with the stresses of the day, all right? So magnesium in the morning. No, it will not make you dopey and sleepy because everybody tells you to take magnesium at bedtime, right? To make you go to sleep. This will help doing it this way, trust me. Okay, so magnesium in the morning with our D3. If you do supplement with D3, just make sure it's fat soluble and in an ultra, high, great formulation that you get that proper absorption, all right? So the one that I take actually has MCT oil in it to help, which is fat soluble, helps with the absorption. All right, so that is in the morning. K2, and if you do take a whole food calcium, is at night. And what this does for your sleep, that calcium is remarkable for your sleep. And yes, they do work hand in hand. So this is the quad that I always talk about, the 4 that are so important. D3, magnesium, K2, and calcium at nighttime. Remarkable for sleep, having great dreams. Your K2 is directing your calcium where to go. And you actually absorb your calcium better into your bones when you have a bit of a peak of your growth hormone, which usually happens around 12 midnight to 1 a.m., if you're on a good circadian biology rhythm. So that becomes really important in terms of your timing. So you can really max out your timing in terms of doing it this way. So that was a great question. And by taking these 2 together, you may not feel so great and there's actually a risk of doing this because that K2 can spike your calcium in your blood when you take your D3 and your K2 at the same time. And the other thing is that the formulations, when they put them together, whether it's in the same drop or same capsule, they're not really necessarily in the right ratio. It might be a little bit higher in that D3, not enough K2, or vice versa. So it's hard to regulate the actual formulation of that to get enough of each. So that's another reason why I just like to take them out in a separated way. And the ones that I take are delicious, they're chewable. If you see me on online shopping, so that's another thing we should, if you're really interested about vitamins and the things that I recommend, please check out online shopping at vitatree.com. And that is happening, so that is all new. We do live shopping online. The next live show, can my team help me? The next live show for live shopping? Yes, November 6th. November 6th. So usually will be the first Thursday of every month. So if you have followed me for a while and you want to do some shopping with me, with the fantastic deals, we'll have deal days and all these things at vitatree.com. You can definitely check out the calendar there as well, and definitely tune into that, because that is amazing and great opportunities for you if you followed me for a while, or even if you're new and you want to learn more about vitamins and how certain vitamin formulations are different, go to vitatree.com November the 6th. All right, we're going to be shopping together. That's going to be great. All right, another question that came in. I know, do we ship to India? Yes, absolutely. We ship worldwide, so that is great to know. And is protein powder, peanut protein powder, okay for thyroid? I would say if it's organic, I would be okay with that. That would be probably okay. Again, everybody's different here, so I can't give a blanket term for everybody, but at the same time, if it's an organic peanut protein, if you tolerate it well, then I think it might be okay. Is it the best type of protein to take for your thyroid? Maybe not. I actually prefer, and what I personally take is a whey protein, which has gone through cold microfiltration, so that's important, and it's a functional protein, so it actually repairs the leaky gut at the same time, and that's something that, when we talk about online live shopping, then I go into more detail about that, if that makes sense. All right. Is there a superior form of vitamin D for absorption you're not absorbing? Yes, so the one that you can look for is in MCT oil from coconuts, and because of that fat delivery system, that vitamin D3, and the D3 made from sheep's wool from their lanolin is my preferred type of D3 to usually recommend. As a balsa, can we test for leptin? Yes, there are leptin blood tests that are available, but there are other things that you can definitely look for. Can I get my blackboard again? There's sometimes a pattern, and it's not going to be for everyone. I actually go through some of the testing in my book, what you can request for, so that's one of the chapters and sections, but some of the things to look for with a leptin resistance problem is your DHEA could be low. And that is a precursor from pregnenolone to make your thyroid hormone. So if that is low, that could be an indication of leptin resistance. Your highly sensitive CRP, which is a marker for inflammation. So if that is high, so it should be a low number, under 1. If it's above 1, and a lot of people have like 6, 7, 8, 12, highly sensitive CRP, high inflammatory marker, yeah, that's usually an indicator for leptin resistance. So those are just a couple of examples. Also, reverse T3 could be high with leptin resistance as well. Your thyroid markers could be off, and usually a thyroid problem actually starts with a leptin problem first. And that's how I learned about all of this, because I had discovered when I finally went to the doctor that I personally had a thyroid issue. And my thyroid was underperforming, and I had the antibodies, blah, blah, blah. And, the Hashimoto's was discussed, and I was like, no, I don't want to listen to any type of diagnosis like this, being who I am and what I study. And so, so I had to delve into, I didn't want personally to be reliant on having to take thyroid hormone, even though I had to go on it for a period of time. I didn't want to have to rely on that. So I started to do a lot of research, and this is where I learned about leptin and leptin resistance, and dedicated a whole chapter in my latest book on and about leptin resistance, because for me, fixing my leptin signaling, and for me, one of the big symptoms was being hungry all the time. I was always thinking about food, which seems ridiculous, but yeah, I think a lot of people and a lot of women with hormonal changes and things, I've had a lot of children, and I thought it was just the hormones, but no, it was a leptin problem, which nobody ever taught us about. And I mean, leptin was only discovered in the 90s, so it's not something that, we learned necessarily And there's so much more. If you search, in PubMed about leptin now, you're going to learn a lot, which is amazing. So a lot of new and emerging research on leptin and why it's so important, especially for weight loss and keeping your body composition healthy. All right, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Sour Abashadiva, I think I said that totally wrong, but thank you for tuning in. It's great to have you all here today. Amazing, amazing. Sophia, what's the book called? Okay, I'll show you really quickly. It's called The Lost Medicine, Rediscovering Mother Nature's Prescription. So you can go, I believe it's on the Vitatree website, so you can check it out. And you can find it there, so on vitatree.com. And it's all, about natural ways to heal and things that you can do naturally. All right, so thank you for everybody who tuned in today. It was so great to have you here. And our next Dr. Janine show will be in a couple weeks, so please come back then. It will be on October the 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's when we'll go through different topics as we do every Dr. Janine show. And then, of course, the next, you can ask questions during the Dr. Janine show, but then of course the next day as well with our Q&A on the Wednesday at 1 p.m. Check out all my content. If you're new here, thanks for all the new followers that came in today and for sharing today's live. Check out all my content on the different forms of long form media. And have a healthy day, everyone. It was great interacting with you all. Some fantastic questions that came in today. I appreciate you all. Have a great day. Be healthy, and I'll see you next time.